Imagine a very familiar moment. You're walking down the street. Everything looks normal until you suddenly realize something. You're talking to yourself. Maybe you're quietly mumbling, "No, that's not the right way to do it. Wait, maybe I should try the other option." Your mind is running through possibilities, arguments, decisions, and then suddenly you almost walk straight into a pole. You stop, look around, and immediately hope that no one just saw you talking to yourself. Because if someone did, they might think something like, "Is this person okay?" And honestly, that's exactly what society has taught us. From a young age, we're told that talking to yourself is strange, that it's a sign of loneliness, or worse, that something is wrong. But here's the surprising truth. Science tells a completely different story. Research from the University of Wisconsin and the University of Pennsylvania suggests that talking to yourself is not a sign of weirdness at all. In fact, it can be a powerful mental tool. Some of the most brilliant minds in history were believed to do it regularly. People like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla were known for thinking out loud, debating ideas with themselves, and verbally exploring their thoughts. So maybe the real question isn't, why do you talk to yourself? Maybe the real question is, why don't more people do it? Because society has a strange habit. Anything that looks different from the norm gets labeled immediately. If you talk to yourself, if you enjoy spending time alone, people think you're antisocial. If you think deeply about things, people say you're overthinking. But if you look throughout history, you'll notice a fascinating paradox. Many highly intelligent people share these exact habits. They talk to themselves. They debate their own thoughts. They ask themselves questions. And if you look closely, you begin to realize something important. It's not a sign of dysfunction. It's a sign of a very active inner dialogue, a private conversation between you and your mind. In psychology, this phenomenon actually has a name. It's called externalized thought. Normally, our thoughts move silently through our minds, fast, chaotic, layered on top of each other. Sometimes it feels like dozens of thoughts are racing through your head all at once, like tangled threads. But when you say those thoughts out loud, something interesting happens. Your brain begins to organize them. For example, imagine you're looking for your keys. You might, okay, where did I put my keys? At first glance, that seems like a simple sentence, but inside your brain, something powerful is happening. By speaking the thought, you activate several different brain systems at once. Your language centers engage, your memory networks activate, and your visual system becomes more alert. In fact, psychological studies have shown something fascinating. When people say the name of an object out loud while searching for it, they tend to find it faster. If you quietly whisper, "Find the keys, find the keys," your brain becomes better at recognizing them in your environment. This is known as the feedback effect. Your brain doesn't just hear the command, it amplifies your attention toward the object you're looking for. It's almost like switching on a mental radar. But that's only part of the story. Another important reason people talk to themselves has to do with something psychologists call working memory. Working memory is the mental space where you temporarily hold information while thinking or solving problems. But here's the catch. Working memory is limited. Imagine it like a small desk. You can only place a certain number of papers on it before things start getting messy. For people with fast and complex thinking patterns, this can become overwhelming. Multiple ideas appear at the same time. Different scenarios run through the mind. Possibilities branch out in every direction. If all of that remains inside the mind, it can feel chaotic. But when you speak your thoughts out loud, you're essentially creating more mental space. It's similar to writing something down on paper, except instead of writing, you're hearing yourself think. By turning thoughts into sound, the brain can process them more efficiently. And this reduces mental overload. Now here's where things get even more interesting. What if talking to yourself isn't just normal? What if it's actually a cognitive advantage? Instead of seeing it as a strange habit, we might see it as a strategy used by highly active minds. Talking to yourself provides at least 3 powerful benefits. The first is emotional regulation. Think about the last time you were stressed or overwhelmed. Maybe you told yourself something like, "Calm down. It's okay. I can handle this." At that moment, something subtle happens. You stop being only the person experiencing the emotion. You become the observer of the emotion. This shift is incredibly important. Psychologists consider it a key sign of emotional intelligence. When you speak to yourself in this way, You create distance between yourself and the emotional storm, and that distance gives you clarity. The second advantage is better problem solving. People who think deeply often experience what psychologists call layered thinking. One idea leads to another. One possibility creates several scenarios. If all of those thoughts remain inside your mind, they can become tangled. But when you say them out loud, they turn into a structured dialogue. You might hear yourself say something like, "Okay, if I try this option, what happens next?" Suddenly, your thoughts become organized like a conversation. It almost feels like two people discussing a problem together, except both voices belong to you. And the third benefit is stronger memory. Research suggests that people remember information more effectively when they hear themselves say it out loud, sometimes up to 20% better. That's why many students read aloud when studying. Why people repeat important information to themselves. Why athletes talk themselves through difficult moments. Your brain processes the sound of your own voice in a unique way. It treats it as highly relevant information. But beyond the science, there's also something deeply human about talking to yourself. If you're someone who often does this, there's a good chance you also enjoy being alone sometimes. Not because you dislike people, but because the world can be incredibly loud. There are always conversations happening, opinions being shared, expectations being placed on you. Sometimes it's overwhelming. And in the middle of all that noise, the quiet conversation you have with yourself becomes something special. A private space, a place where you can reflect, think, and understand yourself better. You're not lonely. You're simply building a strong relationship with yourself. You become your own closest friend, your most honest advisor, sometimes even the only person who truly understands what's happening inside your mind. So the next time you catch yourself talking to yourself and someone gives you a strange look, don't feel embarrassed. They might just be witnessing something simple, a brain working at full capacity, a mind trying to understand a complicated world. And maybe the most interesting question is this: when you're alone and you start talking to yourself, what do those conversations sound like? Because you might be surprised to discover that millions of people around the world are having the exact same private meetings with their own minds.